Here's a little tip.
From our garden to yours. Do you sometimes feel overwhelmed by the amount of food preparation that you make for the holidays? Luann Duncan, our Family and Consumer Sciences agent, has some tips for a make-ahead holiday. Welcome, Luann.
Thank you for having me.
I do sometimes when the holidays come around, I do start feeling overwhelmed when you have to make all the food, and especially if you're making it by yourself. You have some special tips for us about a make-ahead holiday.
Yes, we are going to make a lot of different things ahead and try to understand what things are okay to do, which things are not okay to do, and sometimes they don't turn out quite as good if you do them ahead. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So let's talk first, I think you want to talk about potatoes. I see potatoes here.
Well, I don't know too many holidays where we don't have some kind of a potato. And sometimes it's mashed potatoes because a lot of times you're having some kind of a gravy with it. So when it comes down to the potato, a mashed potato doesn't freeze very well. Now, if you have leftover mashed potatoes, you can doctor them up. For example, if after the Thanksgiving dinner you have way too many mashed potatoes and you don't want to figure out 100 different ways to eat them for the next couple weeks, you can probably save them till the December holidays. However, you're going to have to add some fat to them, and that isn't what we really want to have to do. We're not trying to talk people into adding fat, but to make them so they don't dry out, you're probably going to have to add maybe a little sour cream, some shredded cheese, a little bit more milk before you freeze it so that it comes out and not all dried out or fall apart.
And you could do the doctoring after the freeze too, couldn't you? When you bring it back
could, but for some reason or other, I don't think it works quite as well. I think to have that moisture, especially if you have your self-defrosting freezer and it goes through those cycles, sometimes it's hard to bring them back.
Well, I have a friend that puts a whole pound of butter in the potatoes, and usually there's no leftovers after that, so you don't have to worry
That's
about that.
That's one way to guarantee you add the fat up front. But when you want to put gravy over them, you typically don't want a lot of cheese and other kinds of ingredients in it for gravy.
And what about stuffing? Is stuffing something?
Well, we can stuff the turkey. If you want to do the turkey ahead of time, you can do it if you have to have that stuffing from inside the turkey. But that's the one thing that when we talk about freezing, we say is not safe to do. You cannot take that cooked turkey that has the stuffing in it and put it in the freezer. You need to take the stuffing out and freeze it separately. I would not suggest that you freeze the turkey on the bone or on the whole carcass if you're going to do that ahead. Some people like to slice it. I'd like to say the bigger the pieces, the better, because turkey has a tendency to dry out as well. So put a lot of broth on it and put it in big pieces and cut it down smaller pieces later. It's one of those things, though, some people just feel they have to have that bird come to the table right out of the oven. So there's other things that you could make in advance. All of your side dishes, like vegetables and those kinds of things, you can go ahead and have prepared and frozen. Any breads, a lot of breads can be done in advance, and you can buy bread dough frozen, thaw it out and bake it, and it's almost like fresh bread. And the same thing goes true for cookies and those kinds of things at different parts of the holiday.
I know my sister, she does the cookies, the Christmas cookies, and she'll just have one whole day of baking, and then she does put them in the tins, and you know, she gives them as gifts, so she makes those a way ahead.
Right, and cookies will last for a long time. Your typical cookie, like sugar cookies, and most of your Christmas cookies, like pinwheels and those kinds of things, you can freeze for up to 6 months. Now, if you want to do it, like do the dough like you do at the grocery store, you can make your own dough and save a lot of money and go ahead and freeze it for maybe up to a month if it's uncooked. And with that, the dough, you can make it in smaller amounts and just bring it out. I have a problem. I like to eat. And if I have all those cookies sitting there looking at me, I want to eat them. You can bake them as you need them and maybe not eat as many. So that's just another little side hint. The tins are good if you're storing them for the cupboard. And just in the regular room temperature, we use tins rather than plastic, and you don't mix cookies, because if you have multiple different kinds of cookies and put it in the tin, they'll take on the same texture and the same flavor. You're not going to be able to tell the difference between your cookies.
Well, Luann, I want to thank you for giving us some things that can be made ahead and some things that can't and don't come out so well. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully, using Luann's tips and making things ahead will help your holiday be less stressful.